Garner. Miller. Dapper.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Kehoe.
Here.
Morgan is absent. Kirkman is absent. Selman.
Here.
All right. We have a quorum.
Here.
Now they know what you think about
All
it.
right. Rodney, report on council actions.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the last City Council meeting was the 5th of July. You had 3 items that went before City Council that you had recommended. The first one was annexation and zoning, where we had double zoning, the RD and the RML zoning on one property, and they wanted to do, at the time, they wanted to do townhouses that they presented to you. They got to the City Council meeting, and they, the original company that they were working with to develop the townhouses had dropped off, but they wanted to just correct the zone so that it was all RML. So City Council approved the project. This is the one off of Hawaii Avenue, 508 East Hawaii. They approved the project, the rezone to all RML, but they required a development agreement that just restricted the zonings to residential uses. So there's quite a variety of uses that they can use still for residential, and that was their intention anyway. The second one was an annexation and zoning to RMH. That was at the northwest corner of Cherry and Canada Roads for a multifamily development. And City Council approved that one. And again, you had recommended approval. The last one was an annexation and zoning to RS6. And this one was just for a single property that would be split into 2. They had 2 existing homes on the property. Pretty simple one at 2226 and 2230 West Orchard Avenue. And they approved that annexation and zoning to RS6. And then, I don't know if I said at the first one was not annexation. For some reason, we had the word annexation on it. It was a rezone, that 508 East Hawaii Avenue. Both of those, or the whole property was in the city already. And just a quick reminder, just wanted to remind you about August Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. We're not going to be on the 2nd and 4th. Because of the way that it falls for City Council. So it'll be the 3rd and the 5th meetings. That's the 15th of August and the 29th of August. That's it.
Thank you. Great. I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda unless there's no discussion. Okay. We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. You got those, Karen? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries, and we have,
Mr. Chair, we have quite a bit on communication still.
oh, sorry.
Staff communication. You want me to move forward?
Yes.
Okay. First, I just wanted to introduce our newest member of our team. As I've said before, our team is really small. We did an analysis of all the major cities in planning in the state of Idaho and their planning and zoning departments, and we found that we were either equal to or less people per capita than any other major city in Idaho. Which means that we're doing a lot with very few people. And to some degree, that has been really stressful for us, especially during the boom that we've been in. And so City Council gave us approval for funding to hire another planner for the city. And so our latest hire is Candace Fry, and she's here to introduce herself. We're glad to have her as assistant planner for the city.
Hi, I'm Candace Fry, originally from Boise, but
the last 5 years. Thank you. I lived in the Midwest. I did my undergrad at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. I majored in marketing and geography. And then in May, I graduated with my master's in urban planning from the University of Kansas. So that's me.
Nice to meet you. Thanks.
All right, and then I do have the first and second quarter, is it first and second? Yes. Density report for you. That was in your packet, but I just have a really brief presentation for you. And just as a reminder, I go over the details in full in like January or February when we've had the entire year to analyze. So this is just the quarterly reports. We missed our last quarterly report, so I'm doing both of them here. So preliminary plats, again, just as a reminder, preliminary plats are kind of long-term. They're potentially 3 to 7 years out. Sometimes they go quite a bit faster than that, but these are just kind of your longer-term development. And where are they occurring? Well, this is the one for ending in December of 2022. So I just want to give you a sense of where they were at that time. And then this is your updated numbers. So you see a few more here. Those that are new are highlighted in blue. Those are the preliminary plats that have been approved in the first 2 quarters. So where is it occurring? To the north, to the southeast a little bit, and to the west. A little more detailed view of those and the specific developments, the southern end of that, and then specifics about each of those. You can see single-family units you approved in the first 2 quarters, in the last year, you have approved 620 single-family units and 384 multifamily units. So final plats, these are things that you're going to see more readily, pretty quickly. So where are those occurring? They're occurring to the north and to the southeast, and some to the west as well, but you can see that there. So sorry, I forgot to tell you, that one was the report after December of 2022, and this is the change. And then those that are circled in purple are the ones that were new. So that means in the first and second quarters, those were the plats, the final plats that you approved. A little closer view, the northern portion and the southern section. And then here's the list of projects. 1,114 single-family units were approved in the last year and 88 multifamily units. Short plats, these are pretty small. They're typically infill developments. You can see those there. And we only had 8 single-family units and 66 multifamily units. And that's it. Any questions for me?
I have a question.
Okay.
Looking at the preliminary plat map, it appears to be a lot, well, not a lot less, but less enclaved areas, except on the very peripheral of the city limits. So we're filling in all the unannexed areas in the center of the city?
Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway. Preliminary plats, we've got a couple up north that are still extending on the outskirts of the community. And then to some extent this one here, but this one down here is surrounded by county subdivisions as well. So it's a little bit of it's actually more of an infill than extending out our boundaries again. So yeah, you're right. I think that there's more infill that's occurring, and you can see that even in the final plats. You can see the results of that as well, those infill developments as well.
Means you guys are doing a good job. No wonder you got new help.
That's right. Okay.
So do you have a total number on everything that's in the city limits? To give us like a percentage of total on what we're approving on a quarterly basis? Would that be hard to do, or?
It wouldn't be hard to do. We post these quarterly reports on our website, so you could look and see what the change is each quarter and look back on it. I could bring back a report on that if you'd like.
Just curious.
Yeah.
mean,
And those are all on our website.
The numbers seem like, 1,000 single-family homes that are final platted. I mean, just trying to think in context what that is.
And how it's
Contribute-
changed
yeah.
over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we growing like faster than we were
Yeah,
a year
good
ago,
question.
or slower, even though it feels like faster?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I do that report in like February or March,
Okay.
and I do analyze that and show the change rate over time. So you could look back on our report in, I think we sent it in February to you, and see that growth rate of approvals.
Cool. Thank you. All right. I'm not cutting anybody else off here. Communication, consent agenda's done. So we will go ahead and start, if it's 7 o'clock, or 6 o'clock, sorry. I've got 6:01, so we'll go ahead and start the public hearing portion of the meeting. We'll bring up the applicant. We have one, item number 2 has been withdrawn from the agenda, so we have 4 items this evening. And the program is we'll bring the applicant up. They'll have 7 minutes to present their project. Then we will hear from staff. They'll present the staff report that's been prepared and been distributed to all of us. We reviewed. Then we will have the public come up and give public testimony on what they think of the item in front of us. They'll have, so if you come up and you're signed up to speak, I think I saw everybody sign in with Christy at the back on the iPad, but if you haven't, go ahead and do that and sign up either in favor, in opposition, or undecided on the item that you're here for. And you'll have 3 minutes to tell us what's on your mind. Once you're done with that, we'll bring the applicant back up to rebut. They'll have 5 minutes to address all the concerns or questions that are asked during the public testimony. And then we will close the public hearing, deliberate amongst ourselves, and make a decision on each item. So with that, I will go ahead and invite the applicant for number 1, the conditional use permit for automotive repair for Corwin Ford Automotive, reconditioning in a GB1 zoning district at 15970 North Gate Boulevard, for Alyssa Petrie, representing.
Yes. Matthew Sanchi, representing ZGA
Yeah, you're not
Architects and
Alyssa,
Corwin
okay.
Ford.
Gotcha.
Alyssa was
Thank
our
you.
applicant.
Thank you.
Again, my name's Matthew Sanchi. I'm representing ZGA Architects and Corwin Ford in the project.
Address, please.
Sorry, excuse me. 300 East Mallard, Suite 325, Boise, Idaho, 83706.
Thanks.
The building is an existing project that you approved in 2018 for the Corwin Ford Group offsite of their initial Ford campus. This is where they would do reconditioning of intake of vehicles that they've taken back in for resale, used vehicles, or vehicles that need maintenance that are under their ownership. The initial use was designed as detailing and reconditioning. but it's been understood that the ordinances have now allowed that the inherent use of a reconditioning facility could potentially be used, which is if they intake a vehicle and it has a mechanical problem, they need to repair it to resale properly. So we're asking that the facility can reach its full potential for their use to recondition vehicles and product to be put back on the lot as a used, properly conditioned vehicle for resale. The facility would not change in any way. It was designed and built to meet those needs, but the application was not able to be approved under that condition, and we're asking now that the city and the council approve those conditions.
Okay. Go ahead.
Would this facility be used as an avenue to remove the backlog maybe in the repair shop on their main campus? Would they send cars over here to be repaired even though they're not reconditioned?
Not the intent, no.
Sorry, that's a no or not?
No, it is not. No, they would not be servicing vehicles from customers at this facility. It is truly their own property.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any painting?
No auto body and no painting. We know those are a different animal and a different approval process.
Wait. Any other questions?
I think so.
All right, we'll hear from staff. Thank you. Parker.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. This request is a conditional use permit. Again, they're not making any changes to the building. I'll kind of get into the history. I'm sure you're all familiar with the area. Amazon is next door. Some offices across the street, Idaho Fish and Game. In January, this body approved a conditional use permit for this location for a retail aftermarket and reconditioning center for Corwin Ford. What occurred is more recently we approved a conditional use permit for Edmark Toyota, if you can remember that. Their list was their use was a little more expansive in that it contained some of that auto repair work. What Corwin Ford is requesting here is for this conditional use permit to match what they were approved for. Edmark Toyota was approved for. This CUP that was approved in 2018 was solely just for the aftermarket installation and reconditioning, not the auto repair work. So the conditional use permit conclusions that need to be found. The proposed use needs to be compatible with the abutting properties. Needs to provide a convenient, functional living, working, shopping environment, as well as enhance the successful operation of the area. The GB district, this is in a GB1 district. This first couple paragraphs is the definition of that zone. As you can see, the GB1 district is intended for the mixed use, primarily commercial development, allowing a variety of highest and best land use alternatives with flexible development standards. A lot of this area is zone GB1. You get the Amazon, the Fuller 84, those industrial buildings that were just built. Those were actually rezoned recently, but a good variety of uses here. The section below that, 1032B, describes our unlisted land uses, which the reconditioning center fell into as we didn't have that definition in there. So when people come in, when applicants come in with these undefined land uses, we have a hard time of telling them, what is your use restricted to? Right, because we don't have a definition for them, so what do we restrict them to? So now the applicant is coming in to have their use expanded a little bit more. When we get to the conditions, you can see that staff is recommending that they be restricted to what they're defining in their narrative, as the applicant had already gone over. The only correspondence received, the fire district, they need to follow the International Fire Code. They're not proposing any changes to the building. You can see a site plan there and a street view. I've already defined most of this for you, so I won't cover it again, but one thing, continuing on, performance standards, they're subject to our standard performance standards, which limits the amount of emission of smoke, fume, gases, etc. If they are proposing any additions to the building, it'll go through design review. The conditions of approval, as mentioned before, the number 3, their proposed business are going to be restricted to the use that they're describing in their narrative that was provided in the staff report, which the applicant mentioned, what they're proposing to do here. The potential findings, those are in the staff report. Staff doesn't see any issues with the conditional use permit request. A motion is there for you, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? All right, we will move on to public testimony. Karen, you have the sign-up sheet? Nobody signed up? Is there anybody here that would like to speak or online for, against, or undecided on this application? All right, seeing none, I'd take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have the motion to Cody.
I didn't say anything.
I thought you said something. It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing is closed. What do you guys think? Seems like it.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to approve the conditional use permit for automotive repair for Corwin Ford Automotive reconditioning in a GB1 at 15970 Gate Boulevard for Corwin Ford Family Real Estate LLC with all the recommended conditions, and adopt the proposed findings as listed in the staff report.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve this conditional use permit. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission will become effective 15 calendar days from the date of this hearing unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken by the applicant on the CUP until the appeal period has concluded, and the applicant must confirm with the Planning and Zoning staff there have been no appeals. Good to go. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a conditional use permit for an animal hospital in the BC zoning district at 910 Rising Sun Drive for Catherine Barker, Archwood Studio, representing Merrick H.G. Metos to construct a 2,750 square foot animal hospital. Is the applicant here? Yep. All right, come on up, state your name and address for the record, and tell us what you'd like to do.
My name is Dr. Merrick Meadows. I'm asking for a CUP permit to build an animal hospital on 910 South Rising Sun Drive. My architect is online. She's not here today in person. What we're proposing is a small animal hospital, single level. I have been a veterinarian for 10 and a half years. I graduated from Garden Valley High School, so I'm an Idaho person, not from California or anything like that. I know a lot of people freak out about that, but this is my project, and I'll hand it over to Catherine, my architect, to kind of talk about stuff.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Meadows, and thank you, committee and chair, for the time to present this project. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Catherine Barker, principal of Archwood Studio, presenting on the project of 910 South Rising Sun Drive for the Rising Sun Animal Hospital. As Dr. Meadows mentioned, this project is her local dream to open a veterinary hospital. The project is cited in the existing Fall River West Master Plan. And it's directly at the intersection, as you can see, of South Rising Sun Drive and South Spring Valley Drive. It's zoned for commercial business, neighborhood commercial, and it's an existing lot with parking and pavement in place. And there was a project that was previously in review years ago, and so the proposal is to build a new 2,700 square foot single-story building to provide services for 2 or 3 doctors for an animal hospital. The conditional use permit application is a requirement for the current zone does not include an animal hospital, which would include x-ray services, laboratory services. The zoning ordinance currently approves a use of a veterinary clinic. So this is the next step for us to make sure that we are providing a program and a building that fits into not only the commercial master plan, but then is also sensitive to the needs of the neighbors to the east on South Spring Valley Drive. The program, as described in our narrative that was submitted with our application, includes 3 exam rooms, a treatment area, pharmacy area in the back. Thank you. It includes storage spaces, day use kennels, which are located to the commercial side of the property to limit impact to the neighbors. Thank you. And then employee staff spaces such as offices, restrooms, public restrooms included, a break space, and additional quiet room patient areas. There's also surgery suites at the rear of the building on the north side. And you'll see that the dog kennels do have a screened relief area that will be only day use, and the patients will be under constant supervision. That is, it's not like a doggy daycare or anything like that. So the program presented here is very compact, very economical, and trying to maintain the precedent for what's been approved in the master plan with a residential feel for materiality. If you can go to the elevations, you can see we're keeping the impact of the building design to a minimum, reflecting the residential nature of the neighborhood while being conscious that this is a commercial property. And as of today, we've received our design review approval for the exterior finishes from the city. Thank you. And we are excited to be able to promote this project as a community asset and amenity for the development that's happening on that side of town. Thank you.
Great.
I have a question for you, please.
Go ahead.
What is the difference between a hospital and a veterinarian clinic? Anything?
Dr. Meadows might be able to better articulate that, but as we understand it, the way the code is written, the zoning code, is the difference between day use and overnight, which overnight kenneling is not going to be part of this program. And then it also comes into the services that are offered, such as pharmacy, lab services for like blood work, et cetera, x-rays. But yeah, Dr. Meadows might be able to better answer that if you have more questions.
Well, I like the explanation, I understand it better. And I thought you said, and I want to clarify, that there will not be animals overnight at this facility? Okay, I'm getting a nod if yes, that's correct. Okay, that's all I
That
had.
is correct.
Great. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Might have questions later, so hang on, and we'll go ahead and get the staff report from Parker.
Thank you, Commissioner and Chairman. The applicant covered most of this. Surrounding uses, rent for fun, RV to the north, a lot of vacant commercial lots that are either still vacant or being developed at this moment. Dentist's office, multi-tenant buildings, and then to the east is RS7, that's Fall River West. This area was annexed and zoned in 2007 with a development agreement that depicted a concept plan. The site reflects the concept plan, so there isn't any concern with conflict of the development agreement. We covered the conclusions of law for conditional use permits already. Needs to be compatible, enhance the successful operation of the area. The BC zoning district intended to create, preserve, and enhance areas with a wide range of retail and service establishments. The definition of animal hospital in our code, it's a premise for the medical or surgical treatment of animals or pets, including dog, cat, and veterinary hospitals, including the boarding of hospitalized animals. But as Commissioner Kehoe clarified, there aren't plans to board animals in this location overnight. The engineering comments, this will really be looked at when they apply for a building permit. All the utilities, right away has been taken care of, frontage improvements are existing. The site plan depicted here, we can refer back to this if you have questions. As the applicant had mentioned, this was approved by through design review at a staff level. That approval was done today. The floor plan. The area, it's a mix of commercial, residential uses. There's medical offices, a gym, daycare, and then several vacant lots. The proposed use is defined in the narrative. They specifically call out not being animals being kept overnight. They have designed the building to keep animal noises to a minimum by pushing those kennels to the far side. And the applicant also mentioned the exterior area planned, which is being screened from view. The land use designation here is a mixed use zone. We covered the performance standards with the previous application. It prohibits emission of noise, smells, perhaps. So if there's any concern for that, our code covers some of that. The conditions of approval, this will mostly be taken care of at building permit stage when we review the building permit. But one thing to highlight, number 4, exterior spaces will need to be cleaned regularly, which seems like it's what the applicant is planning to do. It's probably good to highlight that this is different use than a typical commercial kennel. This is a hospital, so it's those uses are a little bit different. The potential findings are in the staff report. A potential motion there for you. I'll stand for questions.
Any questions? Okay, we will move on to public testimony. Karen, do you have the sign-up sheet?
Mr. Jim Roth, did you wish to speak, Mr. Roth? I'm good. Okay. Linda and Jerry Steele? I would like to speak.
On it. Just make sure and give us your name and address for the record and tell us what's on your mind. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
And thank you for hearing me. Linda Steele, 1219 South Spring Valley Drive, Nampa. And I am from California, sorry, but look, I made the right move.
Get the right shirt on.
I first of all want to say we are thrilled to have you. I'm an animal freak. And when we saw what it was going to be, we were excited. I talked to the neighbors and, everything is really great. And the things I heard here tonight about noise, smells, all sounded great. I have one concern, and I think if I'm looking at the map right, it's part of the project. First of all, we have houses back there, and the building and some of these parking spots are 10 feet from the residents' backyard, and those backyards are really small, so it's really close to their house. On this map, and you have to tell me if it's not part of this project, there's a trash area. It's got the opening gates, the trash is, it's 10 feet from those people's fence. When the trash guys come, usually to do the commercial, it's like 6 in the morning. I mean, it's early, we can hear them. We talk about smells, we talk about things like that. I'm really concerned about the trash receptacle being right there by the residents. Nothing else seems to bother me, that bothers me. So I don't know if there's something we can do, if it can be moved, if we can do, I can't imagine there's gonna be no smells coming from that. So we talk about no smells, is that reality? So there's my question, if there's something that can be done to move that, that would be great, but I think it's really unfair to the residents to have that there. And I think it is going to be a problem in the future, I really do. Just trying to stop any of those problems because, again, we're thrilled to have you. So that's all I have to say for now.
And ask the architect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steele, for your,
We'll
go ahead.
We'll call you back up when everyone's spoken.
Chair Van Ocker, that's all I have.
Oh, okay. I don't keep the list, so I don't know. But I will ask if there's anybody else that wants to speak on this item before we get back to the applicant and the architect. Okay, seeing none. Dr. Meadows, do you want her to answer the question? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. This is challenging being online. Thank you for your support, Ms. Steele. We are very aware of the neighbors along the east side of the property and the small yard sizes. We do have the opportunity in this public hearing to address this trash enclosure and maybe bring it up too with the city. The trash enclosure as located has been coordinated with Republic Services for access, and it is about as small as we can get it for what Republic Services is requiring. I think I have it as a 12 by 16 trash enclosure with a 16-foot gate. As you can see, it's located right along the property line, similar to what is included in the original Fall River West master plan for all of these lots with a shared access aisle and a trash enclosure at the end of the access aisle along the east side. So I would we'd be open to looking at other locations if the city and Republic Services can make an agreement and or there is no formal agreement with the neighboring lot for trash services, locations or otherwise. If it's something that we can screen using vegetation from the east, that's something we can look at with our landscape architect. But it is something that we are also interested in seeing if there's a better solution.
Okay. You can't put it on your neighbor's property over there on the southwest side of the lot?
Just dig a hole.
Yeah,
Hi, Chairman Van Ocker, may I speak?
I don't know. Yes, you may. Go ahead.
They have proposed a CMU enclosure with a steel gate. Just so you know, it isn't just going to be the trash can sitting in the
Right.
parking lot. It does have a brick enclosure around it already.
Yep. Okay.
Christie, excuse me, could it be moved easily or not, or?
Commissioner Kehoe, so our code states that it shouldn't be at the front of the property, and we tend to defer to Republic Services for access purposes because
they
they
don't
have to
live
get
there.
those
These
big
other
trucks
people
in
do.
there. The center island there, that triangular piece, maybe that's an option, but it would cause the trucks to have to turn maybe at a funny angle.
Run right
So
into
I'm
it.
not sure that
Oh,
they
I
would
see.
be
It comes in
supportive of that.
Entrance right there, straight ahead, more or less, and then straight into it.
Yeah, which would be out on the main road coming into that subdivision, and our code actually doesn't allow it to be at the front of the property.
Mr. Chair, I believe that Republic Services requires 50 feet clear in front of that trash enclosure. So that 50-foot clear is what causes you the problem, because the trucks have to articulate that parking lot.
And if you see, they've got it, like dotted.
The dotted line, yeah.
Dotted line shows where the,
Got it.
Is there did we get a landscape plan with this project?
So the landscaping along Rising Sun Drive is already existing.
I was talking about behind their property.
No, we don't have a landscape plan that indicates any kind of screening there. If you want to add that as a condition, that would be required at the time of building permit.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe like some tall arborvitae or something to block it. I'm not a landscape architect, but
Yeah, but they're good because they're green all year and they're thick. And they reduce noise and maybe even keep down some of the smell. I don't know.
Yeah, you could certainly add that as a condition.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions for the applicant or staff or any?
I would just, maybe we ask Catherine. Catherine, is that sound agreeable if we were to put a condition that we put maybe a screen of arborvitae behind the trash enclosure as a secondary screen?
Yes, I would say that's something we can provide considering all the constraints we are looking at.
Or some kind of vegetation?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
It's been moved by Matt, seconded by Brett to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing's closed. What you guys like, what would you people like to do?
I like it. I think it's great. This thing's sat empty for a long time. And
Yeah, 07.
To see something going to happen and get this thing growing.
Yeah, if we address the trash issue, I'm certainly in favor of it too. The more the merrier. Keep the animals healthy.
Yeah, I think the CMU block is, that, they use that for sound transfer, so that helps, and then plus putting the secondary behind it would really help, so. Well, if there's no other conversation, I think I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we move to approve the conditional use permit for an animal hospital in the BC zoning district at 910 Rising Sun Drive for Catherine Barker, Archwood Studio, representing Merrick HG Meadows, with the recommended conditions of approval, and adopt the proposed findings as listed in the staff report, with the secondary condition that they add a vegetative secondary screen behind to the east of this the proposed trash enclosure, as a secondary, as another condition.
Second.
All right, it's moved by Matt, seconded by Cody to approve the conditional use permit. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and this conditional use permit approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission will become effective 15 calendar days from the date of this hearing unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken by the applicant on the CUP until the appeal period has concluded, and the applicant must confirm with the Planning and Zoning staff that there have been no appeals. All right, thank you, and good luck with the project. Third item this evening is an annexation and zoning to RS12 zoning district and potential development agreement, subdivision short plat, and subdivision waiver to the 25-foot landscape buffer requirement for Doxon subdivision at 2111 South Happy Valley Road for Vasila Kalunga representing Carlos M. Valdez for 4 single-family detached dwelling lots. Is the applicant? I see the applicant.
William
You're
Mason
not
with
Basilia.
Mason and Associates, 924 3rd Street South in Nampa.
Great.
Vasila is here, but I'm going to just make some quick statements about the project, and then we can open it up and she can answer any questions. So this is the northwest corner of Happy Valley and Greenhurst, next to the roundabout. It's a 1.79 acre parcel, and the existing house is one of the family members. I think it's the father. And the family would like to split the property into 4 so that they can live in a community there with their father. So we're asking for an annexation and a zone to an RS-12. Because of the location of the roundabout and the access that we need to have for this project, we had to push the access to the far north of the property. And that actually has created a little bit of an issue with the normal required landscaping strip of 25 feet on that location. So we're asking for a reduction on that landscaping buffer. I think that probably is everything I need to explain right now. It is a short plat, so we have turned in plans to the engineering department, and we don't have any issues with their comments.
Okay. So the waiver is just for the north part of the road?
It runs the entire length because of the fact that to make the landscaping buffer uniform, we're running the strip to the south all the way to, as a 15-foot all the way through there.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. We may have you back up. Ms. Kalunga, do you have anything else you want to say, or do you want us to hear from staff?
Hi, my name is Vasilia. I'm just trying to develop my family's land. I have 4 siblings, and we're just trying to divide up the property so each one of us can get a portion. My dad's getting older. He's not going to be able to take care of it all, so he figured he'd just give it all to us and inherit, so we inherited it. I'm just trying to make everything fair for my brothers and sisters and develop the land for everyone.
You're the lucky one.
I'm the lucky one that gets to stress out with everything. Yes, yes, very lucky, let me tell you.
All right, well, thank you. We'll call you back up if we have any other questions.
Thank you.
But I don't know who would have them. Parker, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. So a few things happening here. Annexation and zoning to RS-12, the short plat, and then the waiver request. The surrounding area is county to the north, east, and west, Adams Gardens to the west, and then All Pro Lawn Services across the intersection. The county correspondence, this is currently zoned agriculture in the county. It was divided in the 1999 through the county. The irrigation district has an easement that's 40 feet, 20 feet on each side. That's along the south property line. The fire station 2 is 2.4 miles, 7-minute response time. And then the engineering comments had right-of-way dedication, comments on utility availability, frontage improvements. If you have questions about that, Daniel's here to answer those questions. Again, this is a predominantly low-density county with some commercial uses. Vineyard Point is the subdivision that's nearby on Greenhurst Road. That's RS7 zoned. This is low density in the comp plan. RS-12 fits within that low density. The traffic impact study is not a requirement for this development. It's only 4 residential lots. Regarding the landscaping, as the applicant had mentioned, the access to this kind of messes with the landscaping. Only really a portion of it would be able to be in landscaping, as that access is taking up most of the site. And so they are asking for a waiver to that. The typical requirement is 25 feet. The plat is, this area is 1.79 acres. The gross density here is 2.23, which is below the maximum of 2.5. The minimum lot size is 12,000. They're proposing 15,181, and then the maximum size in this zone is 24,000, and they're at 20,118, being the largest. So they meet the lot size requirements and the density here. Here's an overlay of the project and showing the neighboring properties. The proposed potential findings here, all the landowners have consented. It's contiguous through the intersection to the south. The proposed RS-12 meets the future land use designation of low density here. I won't cover all of these, but the zoning meets the comp plan, and the lot sizes are compatible with the zoning. The conditions of approval, there's most of them are engineering conditions. The revised landscape plan would need to be submitted if the waiver were to be approved. And there is an existing structure that's existing on the proposed lot 1. Staff is adding a condition, recommending a condition that the existing structure be used as an accessory to the existing residence. That's to prevent the subdivision, and then that shed shop is on a separate parcel, and then they could sell that to somebody and use that as a commercial lot. That's probably unlikely to happen, but the conditions of approval will prevent that. The potential motion is there for you, and I'll stand for any questions.
Walker, how often do you get requests to lower the requirements, and how often do we approve them? Do you know?
Commissioner, we get waivers every once in a while. They're kind of site specific. They go to city council, so
There's no really
it's
red
not
flag.
really anything that this body is waiving. It'll be a council decision, but it is being requested, yeah.
So it's pretty standard, and
It depends on the development, and it's site specific. It's
all right. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. None, we'll go ahead and open public testimony for this item. Is there anybody signed up? Karen? Oh, anybody here or online that would like to speak on this item? All right. Seeing none, I take a motion to close the public
moved.
hearing. And moved by Steve, seconded by Cody to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. What would y'all think?
Parker, is there an existing residence on the lot? And if it is it going to be raised or?
Commissioner, you can see on this plan, there's an existing house on lot 1. That I believe the plan is for that house to stay, yeah.
any problems with it.
Like a motion to me.
I move to recommend approval of the annexation of zoning to RS12 zoning district, potential development agreement, subdivision, short plat, and subdivision waiver to the 25-foot landscape buffer requirement for Dutch's subdivision at 2111 South Happy Valley Road for Basila Kalunga? Close enough, okay. Representing Carlos Valdez with the conditions listed in the staff report, waive the 25-foot landscape buffer requirement, adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
All right, moved by Tom, seconded by Matt to approve, to recommend approval of this annexation and zoning, short plat and subdivision waiver. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion will carry and go on to city council. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you. And we can't go anywhere because you need we got one more hearing.
We got Christie.
One more.
Jeez.
Come on, Christie.
3-hour video shoot.
The last item on the agenda is more Nampa City Code text amendments for Title 10, Chapter 1 to remove mobile food vendors and food and beverage sales from 10-1-12 and add a new section to address mobile food vendors. Chapter 3 to add food truck court as a use in a commercial and industrial zones. And Chapter 22 to add a calculation for food truck court parking for the city of Nampa. Is the applicant here?
Yes,
Are you coming up front?
I can, but.
I think you should.
Oh,
I don't think it's necessary. You can sit there.
Name and address for the record.
Riping all the way.
I can't see you, just so you know. Okay. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. The request before you this evening, Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa, by the way. The request before you this evening is recommendation to City Council for code changes as stated by the Chairman. A little bit of history here.
Can we turn her timer on?
The city clerk.
No.
Oh, I can go on forever. City clerk's office is kind of taking over the licensing of mobile food vendors. And so they are writing into their section of code what those licensing parameters are, which means that we can remove our temporary use permit section, which applies to mobile food vendors. And so we're trying to coordinate the timing the same so that we're putting out the new licensing language at the same time that we're retracting what was required for the temporary use permit. So with that, we have had a lot of questions about, well, what about food truck courts? And we don't really have any guiding language in our code that says that we can have multiple food trucks on one parcel and what that looks like. So this is an effort to try to add some guiding language to our code. So as stated, we're going to remove the mobile food vendor language for temporary use permits in Title 5 and then have it reference Title 5, Chapter 8, which is the new licensing requirement in the City Clerk's Code. Remove Section 10.112B1, which is referring to food and beverage sales requirements, and then renumber that entire section. Add a new section for requirements that apply to the development of food truck courts, and then add a section at the very end of the code that talks about mobile food vendors and the requirements for them that are not covered by the city clerk's licensing language. Then in Chapter 3, we are adding by conditional use permit in all of these different zones for food truck courts. And what that would do then is allow for multiple food trucks to be on one piece of property as long as they meet the guidelines. So in that conversation, we started talking about what does that look like as far as parking goes, right? How many parking spaces per food truck should we require? So this might be something you guys want to toss around if you feel like this is inappropriate. We came up with 5 spaces per vendor pad. So if you had a large enough parcel for 4 trucks to be located with some tables, obviously you're going to have lines at those food trucks, that's 20 spaces. So if you feel like that's appropriate, inappropriate, that may be something that you want to talk about.
So sorry.
No, go ahead.
ADA, Is there a requirement for ADA spaces in a food court like that, to be close to? Closest
So
to the
that's
trailer?
really a building department question.
Okay. Curious.
They don't, when they're not providing kind of sit-down service, you know, they may have picnic tables or whatever, but when you've got mobile, kind of means you come and go. And they would maybe have some porta potties or something like that there. In those cases where it's not a sit-down use, you're not spending a majority of your time at that location, the building code doesn't necessarily require the ADA,
Interesting. Okay.
because likely that person maybe wouldn't get out of their car, probably maybe wouldn't go there. Again, it really depends on how many parking spaces you ultimately end up putting in the parking lot, which is how the ADA is. And I think it's 25 spaces, one ADA space per 25 spaces. So, that good on parking? Do you guys want to talk about it some more?
Sure.
Okay. So proposed staff findings, we have standard language in our code about how we change our codes and the processes that we go through, and these are your potential motions. I will stand for any questions.
Christie, on National Night Out, some subdivisions will bring in a food truck or two for that event only. Will they still get temporary permits for that, or?
So they don't currently get temporary use permits for that, because the temporary use permits are for commercial zones where they go and park for weeks and months on end.
Right.
If the HOA chooses to invite them in for a couple hours at a time, we don't regulate that.
Okay.
The new licensing kind of has some parameters about how that will work. And some of the code language that we've proposed here talks about, you know, not being a nuisance to the neighbors and not causing noise and problems in their yards and that kind of stuff, so that they'll be welcomed back again in the future. Sure. But it's really the HOA. Our definition of mobile is that, you know, a couple hours at a time, you come, you go, done. In that case, if you truly are mobile, we really don't regulate it.
Right. As long as they're not infringing on somebody else what they want to do.
Right. No, it shouldn't.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open the public testimony for this item. I don't see anybody here.
I make a motion, we close public hearing.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. That motion carries. We're closed. What does that do?
I'd like to.
And ladies.
Complicate things.
I'd like to approve it.
Okay, make a motion.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of the changes to Title 10 Planning and Zoning, Chapter 1, Chapter 3, and Chapter 22. The staff proposed findings as presented in the staff report and directed by the P&Z Director and City Attorney to draft an ordinance for reading at a future City Council meeting, the City of Nampa, so on and so forth, the ETA, so on.
Second.
Right, we have a motion and a second by Brett to recommend approval of these changes. Is there any discussion, or all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. That'll go to City Council. Nice presentation, Christie.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
You didn't let me say aye. I said maybe. Maybe I want to stick around for
Hang
it.
around, finish your dinner.
Tell my dad we'd be done at 7.
Casey, I've been eating for 2 days. I had to bring something to eat.
I was way off.
You did good, too.
I know, and you did way more than her. Guys, sorry.
All right.